Yeah, and it seems so much
Yeah.
of these traditions are mostly oral. Like you don't have a Bible, you don't have a list of canon to go
Man,
through. What you have is
some of it's
folklore.
just genetic memory, bro.
Yeah, I can see
Blood
that.
memory.
Uh, by the way, welcome to fucking Tape Eaters. We're here. We've made it. I wasn't able to get my nitrous chargers. Why would a convenience store close at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night? I don't know. Like, dude, you sell fucking kratom. You sell Delta 8. You sell nitrous. You sell all the thing a growing boy needs. And here I am, I'm just coming off my drunk, and now I'm sleepy. And what? I have nothing to help me there. I have nothing, fucking nothing. I got warm Mike's Hard, black cherry, warm,
Sure.
always warm. I drink it
Cherry
like
is
the
the best
Europeans.
based.
Yeah.
You know they like, and it's kind of interesting. If you go and you get at a fast food restaurant in like Ukraine, for example, you only get they won't give you any ice. So like your drink is cold, but there's no ice.
It's
And I'll be honest with
magic.
you, it's pretty fucking good that way.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
I
pretty
think
good that
demons do that.
way.
How else would it be cold if there's no ice? There must be demons in the cow that produce the Sprite, making it cold from the
The
udders
Fanta, the,
of
Fa-
the
the
Fanta
Fanta,
cow.
the, the Fanta cow. It's got like oranges growing out of its back.
You suck it right from the cow's tit, it be hitting different. How they make it hit like that? I don't know. It's the cow. It's the demon in the cow.
The brown cow makes choco milk.
Oh, so I am Yakov. I think everybody knows that. I am joined by K98.
Well,
Yeah. And Southern Polak.
Based.
So we do be having things to talk about. There do be current events.
oh yes,
Everybody's wallets do be hurting
the
as
kill,
badly as
the
I've been
killing
hurting.
stone.
If all things, I just want total annihilation of society and the world, possibly the universe. Put us all back on equal footing. A little bit of equity, you know what I mean? Make everybody as poor as I
Acceleration,
am.
accelerationism is bad.
But
Fallout in real life.
see, accelerate. I don't know that it's accelerationism. People keep throwing that word around. It's not like acceleration seems like you're trying to like ultimately fix something. You're trying to make it worse so that people realize then they fix it. I don't want anyone to fix it. I want it to break and never be put back together.
Okay,
Break the wheel.
Pre-Bronze Age.
That's
return
true.
to monkey.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Return to Yamnaya.
I'm ready. I'm
I
ready.
want I want my friggin' chariot with the golden bombs. Shit we
With
had.
fucking
That's pretty good.
with the Sonnenrads for wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds great.
You gotta have spinning Sonnenrads, or else you're not gonna get the fucking Twitter clout. I want to be
Come
fucking
on now,
posting on
lads.
Twitter going
I was
65 miles an hour through the fucking steps.
Steps, yeah. Throat singing.
oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
bombs. Get buried in a mound.
Dude, I will be one with the mound. I will be the boy of the boulder.
You'll become an elf.
You say Yakov 3 times while you sit in the boulder and you get transported to WrestleMania.
Zoom.
Sped Kaczynski in the
WrestleMania.
chat. Yeah, dude. Accelerate D's nuts, Sped says. We got Havelock over on D Live. Yakov, is it true that Antarctica has a flag now? Or is it just schizo BS? Does anybody know the answer to this? I don't know the answer to this.
I knew that happened in Antarctica and I didn't know about it. That's interesting.
Antarctica flag. Let's fucking
Antarctica.
do a switch fucking
Yeah,
which
see,
which
it looks like
shitty fucking search engine should I be using now?
Indeed.
Are
just
they
use
all
whatever
garbage?
Brave has on.
Can I use Ask Jeeves?
Yeah, they're pretty much. Ask
I
Jeeves.
want to ask Jeeves real quick.
Mm.
Flag of Antarctica. Huh. It is recognized by members of the Antarctic Treaty System. So basically, fucking demons. The adoption of this flag is not yet universal, and dozens of official designs have also been proposed. Alright, well, I mean, honestly, it seems like the status of Antarctica as, I don't know, as a physical fucking place is it's more contested than that of Quickville. I bet Quickville has a flag, and I doubt anybody's going to argue about Quickville. And
Yeah,
basically,
there's
I'm
like a Norwegian flame.
trying to
But
tell you I don't
Quickville is
believe in
well
Antarctica.
documented. Quickville is well documented.
Quickville is the most well documented place on Earth. A lot of people don't know
Seems that way.
this.
And the thing is with the Arctic, there's all kinds of bad stuff that can like happen to someone in the Arctic. Like I was, for
Well,
whatever
there.
reason, it showed up in the algorithm. I was on a kick about the missing Franklin expedition from 1845, and they have like a lot more information about what probably happened now. And yeah, you don't want to get caught out in the Arctic. That
That's the
place
one
is
where
fucking
I
horrible.
think it was like an English I don't know,
Yes,
naval
they were
crew was trying
English
to find
fighters.
passage. They were trying to find like I don't know,
Yes,
passage
to China.
across, yes, through North America. Yeah, and ultimately it seemed like poor planning and lack of supplies ultimately that led
And
to
they
the
ended
end
up
of
eating
that.
each other.
Yeah, I don't know, that dude over there do be looking tasty. We got
That they're also suffering, they think, from lead poisoning
hmm.
because the British didn't understand, or no one did at the time, that like lead solder on canned food is probably not a good idea.
If they were poisoned by mercury, they'd probably be like communing with the gods, and they would have gotten out of there easy.
Yeah,
Nah.
Is that not a good
But
idea?
I think they had scurvy.
scurvy too. Yeah.
Dude, just bring a lime. Seriously.
Well, they did. They had like 2 tons of fucking lemon juice. But the problem is, after 3 years, lemon juice loses all its nutritional value. So basically, they were stuck in the ice for that length of period, they didn't have any fucking lemon juice.
Dude over here
Basically,
sucking
so it
on a
was
3-year-old lemon.
yeah. So they decided, well, we're going to try to walk to the nearest trading post, which was 1,200 miles through the Arctic. So they're gonna have to walk south through
Dude,
like
I
the
hope I
Canadian
don't get
islands.
missing 411 while I walk 12,000 miles
Miles in
through the
Canada, yeah.
fucking Arctic. It's gonna happen. You're asking for it, really. You're just begging for trouble at that point.
Well, then there's polar bears too. Like polar bears are fucking. People don't understand. They think they're cute, like white, fluffy animals.
Apex
No, they will
predators,
actively
baby.
hunt people. Yeah, they
Yeah.
will actively hunt people. They're like one of the only animals that will.
I mean, you can say that's not. It's not surprising, really, when you think about it. But the thing is, like with like grizzlies or something like that, they're eating other things. They're eating fucking like berries and shitty little creatures like fish. They're scavenging and all that. Polar bears are
Deer,
not
yeah.
doing that stuff. They are killing large
No,
animals. That's what they do all the time.
and eating.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We got Scar in the chat. Sped Kaczynski asks, "Fuck you mean we left the perks in Quickville?" Yeah. Hell yeah.
So we left the perks on the Franklin expedition, guys.
Yeah. Turn this boat around.
I turned this.
Alright, so I've been doing some thinking lately, as all people have been doing, about the Russia situation. I was trying to think of some good content, because I could consider it'd be like, I don't know what fucking based garbage takes we could have, just like unironically talking about Russia and Ukraine. Not America, not my problem. Don't give a fuck about any of those people. So instead, I want to talk about time travel. Do you guys remember John Titor? John Titor?
Vaguely.
He was a guy that posted on
Little freaky.
AboveTopSecret.com, I believe, back in the day, claiming to be a time traveler from the year. What the fuck was it? The year 2036.
Hmm.
He was posting in 2000 to 2001. So in these posts, Titor or Titter, everyone says Titter, but it sounds so fucking stupid.
Tighter.
Is it just funnier that way? I don't know.
Okay.
He made numerous predictions, a number of them vague, some quite specific, about events in the near future, starting with events in 2004. However, as of 2021, these events have not taken place. He has described a drastically changed future in which the United States had broken into 5 smaller regions. The environment and infrastructure had been devastated by a nuclear attack, and most other world powers had been destroyed. So, like, when you... I don't know. It's like, that's not too too out there to me. Like I've heard all of these things talked about before, and they all sound quite believable to me. But it's like people have been saying all of these same things since like the '80s. Just happens that they're right. So it's not too surprising that some guy on a conspiracy forum like would just
Computers
list this shit
exist.
off.
Computers exist.
Gangster
You know
computer
what this kind
guy.
of reminds me of?
What's that?
You remember the fucking Google executive? I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. He was like their Canadian fucking branch executive. But he was going on about how Google was going to eventually build quantum computing technology that could contact beings from other places. And these beings may or may not be friendly, but Google wants to contact them. I thought that was fucking weird.
It's very interesting,
That
and
was like the demon shit.
it's like
Yeah.
what do you use how would you do that through technology contact interdimensional beings? And like is it straight up like
Hmm.
something that opens a portal, or are we talking about like using an AI program that you can converse with that's intelligent enough, or it's like it's progressed enough so that it can have like a conversation with you that is indistinguishable to you from that of a real person. And then it's like, is that
Yes.
a sort of like automatic writing, the same techniques that were used in like the early 1900s for and
Hmm.
beyond that to talk to
Hmm.
spirits? Is it like
Hmm.
channeling at that point?
Yes.
That's what they're
Planchette
talking about,
writing.
right?
The Tang Dynasty outlawed that.
Go on.
That's what I know about that.
Yeah, it does
What
sound like
exactly?
channeling, to be honest.
Oh, planchette right. So planchette writing. What are you talking about? Like ancient Chinese people, if I understand correctly, used to have like some kind of spirit channeling hall or something where it's like a temple where they have a device that has like a pendulum thingy on it or whatever. And people hold it and it writes characters in the sand or whatever, or like on ink or
Okay.
with ink on the silk. You
So,
know.
yeah, and just yeah, pretty standard
Yeah.
divination.
Yeah, so this thing will write a bunch of stuff and they'll get books out of it and then they'll make like records of all their sessions that they do and then sometimes they make a religion out of it.
So now they got like an app where you can have like an AI GF that you can text with all day, and she's got like her emoji
Oh,
form and shit. So
I
it's like
named her
Good.
after my ex and purposely rude to
yeah, I was prejudiced to mine. I had to do it. I had to do it to her. Hair too nappy. Um, fucking yeah. So I'm wondering, like, is this just a ploy to get normal people like interacting with interdimensional beings?
It
That's what
could
I wonder
be.
too. I
It
wonder
could
if they're like
be that.
gonna use
Go on.
a vessel. Like I was watching a thing. What if they're gonna eventually get so well to where they can make a vessel for this thing, and then it'll be like a fucking person walking around and shit.
Scary.
Yeah,
Indeed. Indeed.
I found things on the internet that were bots that were talking about doing stuff like that years ago. And it looked to me like they were connected to people that had money. So
Scar in the chat says replica with a K. Is that the app that I'm talking
yes,
about? I think
yes,
it might be.
that's it.
Yeah. I
Yes,
used it. It
that's
was
it.
fucking
That's it.
creepy. And it's pretty solid. If you say the N-word enough times to it, it kind of like loses track of the conversation and can't respond anymore, but like
hmm,
if you talk to it, I don't know. If you like actually say things to it, like it's pretty creepy how I don't know. How big of an incel am I? How what depths will I stoop to? Have a deep fake girlfriend? Don't mind if I do. Is it cheating? I don't know. Let's see what my girlfriend says. See if she's mad.
It's gonna be like that fucking what was that? They're gonna be. Damn it! I
I don't
lost
know.
my train of thought.
It
Fuck.
happens.
I think it'd be more useful to have a telephone that does whatever you tell it to do. I think that'd be useful. You know,
A
like
telephone?
telephone, do my thing, and then it maybe do that.
It does
Isn't that literally what
do my fucking
smartphones are?
engineering homework.
Oh yes, isn't it? That's good enough, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Havelock says, "What if the Antichrist is an AI? If Chris Chan
Nah.
wasn't
That's what I,
the
I'm talking
Chris
about.
Chan is the Antichrist first and foremost. If Chris Chan weren't the
Right.
Antichrist, then maybe I know I am a proponent of the gangster computer god. I'm all about talking about how that shit is controlling all of our lives with the Frankenstein radio waves. And if you use a few hundred razor blades to chip away the wallpaper in your house, you will notice that it has fresh red paint underneath. You have to get rid of every inch of that because you're living in a CIA prison. Okay. Scar says, "What if Siri and Alexa aren't actually AI and are interdimensional beings?" That's exactly the thing. That's these processes are just divination. This is how you contact them.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. How
Hmm.
the fuck did we
I've
get to
Yeah,
always
I
this?
argued
understand what
that.
you're saying. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Oh shit, yeah. Glad somebody is.
Like
Yeah,
I used
no,
to.
like I said, I sent you some video you can check out, that creepy documentary made by the person who makes creepy documentaries, and
Chills. Number
Human Course or
15.
something. I don't know.
Number 15.
Let's see.
Let's get to the get to
Chill.
some of these predictions by John Titor, who I forgot we were even talking about. I am pretty
Ah,
baked.
yes.
All right. Although invoking the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, whereby events from his own timeline may differ from our own, Titor also expressed assurance that the differences were minimal. As such, his descriptions have been interpreted as predictions and compared with historical events since 2001. The most immediate of Titor's predictions was of an upcoming civil war in the United States, having to do with order and rights. He described it as beginning in 2004, with civil unrest surrounding the presidential election of that year. The civil conflict that he characterizes as having a Waco type event every month that steadily gets worse will be pretty much at everyone's doorstep and erupts by 2008. So, like, the timeline is a little off here, but his description of having a Waco type event every month that steadily gets worse, it is
Yeah.
not something that people were generally feeling in 2000. But it is something that people are definitely talking about today. How there is this massive shooting, this massive, this egregious like violation of human
There's a crisis
rights.
every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, so much of it is bullshit. But there's so much real shit out there too. And when real shit happens, they don't even bother to cover it on the news anymore, because it's like it
Hmm.
doesn't help our narrative, and shit happens every day. Who really gives a fuck? I remember back when Columbine happened, coming home from school, and the reaction that people had was the exact same reaction that I would see a few years later, or what, 2 years later, with 9/11. The reaction was 9/11 tier. People standing mouth agape, surrounding their TVs, like with tears running down their faces. That's what it was like the day Columbine happened. And now, what the fuck? School shooting? I don't know. Was the shooter black or white? That's all that matters now.
Hmm.
No, you know what really got me about the fucking shooting things and shit was the back in, I want to say in September in Dallas, they had one where a black kid friggin' brought a gun to school
Oh,
and uh and he injured four people. He didn't kill anyone, but he
oh,
shot four people
Terrible
and
shot.
he fucking got like 12 months in juvenile over it.
oh,
And like that was it.
huh. Not good.
And like if it was a white kid that went in there and did that, it would be a national media story, and it would
Fucking
be
jury.
24/7.
The jury looks at that kid and all they think is, "I can fix him."
Yeah,
Ain't
yeah.
ain't happening. Ain't happening. Titor
I don't know
claimed
how you feel that.
Titor oh, don't get me started. Titor claimed that as a 13-year-old in 2011, he fought with the Fighting Diamondbacks, a shotgun infantry unit of Florida, for at least 4 years. However,
Shotgun infantry unit. What the
bam.
fuck?
In other
From a
posts,
from a.
it's some
No, keep
XCOM
going, keep
shit.
going. I'll
It's
tell you in a minute.
actual
Yeah.
XCOM shit. However, in other posts, he describes himself as hiding from the war. As a result of the war, the United States splits into 5 regions based on various factors and differing military objectives. This civil war, according to Titor, will end in 2015 with a brief but intense World War III. 2015, it was a banger. 2015 ruled. It
But yeah,
wasn't World War
2015 was a
Three.
great year. That's the year
We
I
were,
freaking got
we were
engaged
on
to
the
my ex. And
timeline.
May have been the impetus for World War Three. So in 2015, Russia launches a nuclear strike against the major cities in the United States, which is the other side of the Civil War from my perspective. What the? I don't know if this. I guess this is a quote from Titor. Uh, yeah, so in 2015, Russia launches a nuclear strike against the major cities in the United States, China, and Europe. The United States counterattacks. The U.S. cities are destroyed, along with the American federal empire. Some future shit. Thus, we in the country won. The European Union and China were also destroyed. So, I thought this was all going to go into the Russia shit. So, who the fuck cares, really? So, I guess that was another thing, is part of this World War III would be a major conflict between the US and Russia. And that's the stuff we're on the doorstep of today. So like I said, it's not surprising, but all the things he is talking about are things we are experiencing. So maybe we're just in another
saying
timeline.
which,
We're in another
yeah, I
timeline
mean,
because he knew about the weird funky details about the computer with its like having multiple operating system language or computer languages on it. The fact that wasn't released to the public until a long time after he had published that information on the internet or something.
Ralph Lamau says Russia wins, inshallah. Got Goku Chi in the chat. What up, bruh? What up? Let's see what else we got here. Title refers to the exchange as End Day. Need I say
end
more?
day,
Happy End
end
Day,
day.
everybody.
Okay,
Uh,
but when's I day?
yeah, the G Day. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, Washington, D.C. and Jacksonville, Florida are specifically mentioned as being hit. After the war, Omaha, Nebraska is the nation's new capital city. Look out, boys. Fucking city on the
Nebraska.
rise. Titer is
Uh-oh, Midwesterners unite.
vague as to the exact motivations and causes for World War III. At one point, he characterized the hostilities as being led by border clashes and overpopulation, but also points to the present conflict between Arabs and Jews as not a causation, but rather a milestone that precedes a World War III. So maybe this is the world we're heading into. I don't know. I don't know.
My only thing I'd have to say is that the way he describes like the militias, it's kind of a spurred moment, but the way you wouldn't arm any like military unit with just shotguns because shotguns have a pretty poor effective range, usually under 100 meters. They're very good weapons for close up. 100 meters, like which is a typical combat distance, they're not very good.
Mosley Wave says, I can't decide if I want real but terrible stuff happening or the gay business as usual. But I don't know.
Really terrible. Really
At the end of the day, like it's like, do you want the shitty this 20-year-old fucking beat up car, or do you want what's behind the mystery door? And I'm gonna take the mystery door every fucking time, bros.
I,
same.
I was gonna think and say that there was something or other where we had a choice between a good thing and a bad thing, but
No,
yes,
no.
mystery door.
Yeah,
Mystery
there's no
door.
good and no bad. All there are multiple fucking choices with multiple outcomes. At the end of the day, it's gonna be the same fucking
Mystery
thing. You're gonna
door.
die. We all gonna die. Whatever,
It's
Mystery
dude.
just a
door it
matter of
is.
I
man,
I spent my whole fucking youth from the time I was like 15 years old being like the economy's gonna collapse. We need to tear the band-aid off now. Like before I even had real concept of what the fuck that even meant, just because I happened to find Alex Jones or some shit like that. But all my life, that's been the thing: is like tear the fucking band-aid off because it's only gonna get worse if you don't do
dude. Back in the
something.
day, Alex Jones was like the only fucking source out there of anything. I remember.
If it wasn't for Alex Jones, I would say that fucking
Yeah,
most of us, probably at least half of us in these milieus or whatever the fuck, wouldn't be here. He was probably
same.
the biggest
Yeah,
influence.
Actually, I think it's the inverse. I think it's the inverse because he's a CIA plant, like you said on Joe Rogan's show, right?
he might be.
And so,
I've
and
often
so,
wondered about that.
Imagine
and
fucking being around and challenging the system for this long without becoming compromised. Like,
so he's a
Yeah,
plant. So he's a plant, and then on top of that, what you're saying is the inverse, because what his function is to make people look crazy by association.
I would say, and maybe that was the purpose. I would say that's not how it worked.
At the part,
While
yes,
they did
yes,
Oh,
look
I'm not saying
crazy,
it worked
they
outright.
they've
I'm not
been
saying it worked outright.
vindicated on such a large scale in front of so many people. Not the majority,
Mm,
but enough people that those ideas grew. They didn't get silenced. They
mm.
fucking grew because of it.
I agree.
Perhaps,
And when I listen
perhaps
to
like a
old
I
Alex
mean,
bonsai
the
Jones,
tree,
memes were pretty.
like a bonsai tree.
yeah. And when I listen to old Alex Jones, I'm not hearing a guy who is active, like knowingly compromised. Doesn't mean he's wrong. He might be wrong. He might be being misled, being fed disinfo, this or that. But if you listen to old Alex Jones, that's the guy who believes what the fuck he's saying. I truly do believe that. Now it's a little different. Now he's just a broken man. He's been saying this shit for so long, and he tried to do the
Yeah,
Trump thing, and now there's no hope. And now, what do you say now? There's nothing left to say except for shit that'll get you arrested, and he knows that. And it's just sad to be
Yep.
Alex Jones now.
isn't it?
Yes, yes. Give me a fucking another
I
eight
do
ball
love
and a
the meme.
bottle of whiskey, and we'll fucking make it through the day. See if I have a heart attack. That's what Alex Jones is thinking.
Oof.
It's true.
I mean, it's sad. I mean, yeah,
Our prayers go out
everything's
to
fucking
Alex
sad.
Jones.
All right. So you guys want to talk about Russia and Bible prophecy?
I thought we was going to talk about the Killing Stone, but yeah, sure,
We
Russia, Bible
gotta waste
prophecy.
2 hours,
Sure.
bro. We gotta waste two
Okay,
hours.
all right.
Yeah, that's fine. We can
That's the
talk about
goal.
that. Yeah, talk more about Russia.
All right. So Mosley Wave in the chat says it's a Cornhusker world. You're just living in it. Goku Chi says Y2K was the end of the world, and
Huh.
marry the hooker he cheated with. I guess that's Alex. That's Alex Jones. I'm not sure. Why not? Fuck it. He's a funny dude. I'll let him marry a hooker. All right. Let's go on to some of this Bible prophecy about Russia. See if anything lines up here. So the prophet Daniel wrote about Russia. Daniel was one of the most prominent prophets mentioned in the Bible. He lived around 620 to 538 BC. He has seen the rise and fall of Babylon and Assyria. He also saw how the Medo-Persian kingdom brought Assyria to its knees. Now, Daniel's one of my favorite books of the Bible, and I've talked a lot about it before. You'll find my memorial stream from I don't know, a couple weeks back. Uh, yeah, I talked about Daniel at length there.
Well,
So,
darn it,
what's up?
Da- Storm Daniels is a person Alex Jones could get to know.
What?
Stormy Daniels, what?
Oh, that
Oh,
fucking
about the
that prostitute.
Anyways, Bible stories. Bible stories.
Let's talk about Jesus. Let's not talk about prostitutes. For us to know where Russia is in Bible prophecy, we are going to look at Daniel's writings, particularly in Daniel 11:40 to 45. At the time of the end of the at the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and many ships, and he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape from his hand. Edom, Moab, and the Am I in the? Yeah, I'm looking at the right part. Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and also the Libyans and Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many. And he shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him. Now, this can be a
Oh,
mouthful of verses to digest. Before we dig deeper, we must establish that these verses talk about future events. The reason is that some Bible students would suggest that these verses only pertain to past events. So, how can we prove that these verses are about future events? Go into Daniel 12:1 to 2. To chapter 2. At that time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Obviously, these passages talk about future events, and in context, that includes Daniel 11:40 through 45. So it's trying to say that this is specifically about the end times. You might say the times we're living in now, as I think we are certainly in I don't know, the Antichrist machine, the Antichrist kingdom.
Chileans. We do
I
have
think we're within
people.
1,000.
Yeah, it's hard to put numbers on it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure feels shittier every day, and
I,
it's never
I
been
would
so
Yep.
shitty, probably.
I would say
Oh,
that
I agree.
the
It fucking
accumulated
sucks, man.
effects. Yes.
What's that, Kay?
Oh, I would say that the accumulated effects of the Jesus stories and the Bible prophecies and the other things all associated with that together should be taken in consideration with the Orthodox Church's position about all of that, which I am not able to represent well in words for you here today. But basically, they say, well, we'll just omit the Book of Revelation from our yearly liturgy and not have a homily about that because everybody seems to get overly excited and expect the end of the world. So
So, what are you saying? They just don't focus on Revelation?
I'm saying they omit
Yes,
it
the
from the
Orthodox
liturgy.
generally don't.
Oh, so
They omit it from the liturgy.
but
Yes,
it
it's not in the
remains,
liturgy.
but it remains canon.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I think it's very important to look at Revelation. I think from I don't know, like the from where Jesus was coming from, it feels like one of those things, like with those for those with the eyes to see and with the ears to hear, and like
Well, that's the thing, because then the Book of Revelation becomes a whole esoteric doctrine opportunity, right? So then, if you don't give a homily about it, your parish could come and ask about it.
I would say that almost everything in the Bible can be taken out of context to turn into some fucking weird perverted cult. Almost everything in the Bible.
Well, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that
But that's anyone.
maybe you should ask a expert in a given religion about what a book in the Bible means, because I have no fucking
I mean, I have some idea. I read the Bible. I've consulted
Fair
many
enough.
people about it.
I have not. So
I've read most of it. I
It's
haven't read
worth
it
reading
back to
cover to
back.
cover. It's the context is really fucking important. Because like a lot of these fucking verses come at you out of nowhere, but if you have context for it, I don't know. It becomes the most beautiful puzzle I've ever looked at in my life.
interesting.
So
I need to do that.
let's go to establishing our point of reference. To avoid confusion, we must first understand that when Daniel was writing these words, he was thinking of Jerusalem as the point of reference. So when it talks about the king of the north, king of the south, and news from the east and the north, he was talking about Jerusalem as the focal point of these directions. So identifying the key players. Daniel 11:40 through 45, we read the following of the king of the north and the south. Who are these kings? The king of the north refers to the end time Roman Empire that will arise from Europe, which will most likely be headed by Germany, along with 10 kings and 10 nations. Can you see where the politics is going here? Can you call it
Yes,
yet?
but I've often heard it's argued that because Russia is the third Rome, Moscow is, that all the Roman Empire stuff in Revelations might be talking about them. Also, they might be part of the because genetically Slavic people are related to the previous inhabitants of the steppe, the Scythians or Sarmatians. They were Indo-European people that lived on the steppe and were very into horse culture. But I've often heard that they were Gog and Magog, and that they were referenced as destroying Israel at one point. And like today, like when you hear biblical uh, talk about Gog and Magog revelations, they're like a representative of Russia or East Europe, is what I've heard. But I don't know how true that
So
is. That might be
that
just
the
Baptist
Gog and Magog thing definitely
around
it's
me.
brought up with Russia all the time. Here, where it's talking about the end times Roman Empire that will rise from Europe with Germany as the head, this is talking about the European Union.
EU.
Without a doubt,
Yes,
that's
because
where this is
Germany
going.
always yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the king of the south refers to an alliance of nations that is located to the south of modern day Israel, and to some extent includes westward countries. So there, it's just talking about fucking Arabs, basically. So we
Yes.
read that the king of
Like
the
Saudi Arabia. So
yes, we read that the king of the
yeah.
south would include Moab, Edom, Ammon, modern day Jordan, Cush, Phut, and Egypt. And if you look into the religious characteristics of these countries, they are Muslim countries. So you might be asking, where is Russia? So far, I haven't told you. Now stay with. This is fucking written so pretentiously, but I think the information is pretty good. Now stay with me, because it's crucial to understand first what the kings of the North and South will do in the future. What they do will influence Russia's decision in the end times.
Okay.
So what happened to the king of the north and south from Daniel 11:40? At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. He shall enter into the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. So we see how the king of the south started a war against the king of the north. Why? The reason could be that the southern king would like to restore the former glory of Islam in Europe. If you look into history, Islamic empires stretched and reigned in parts of Portugal, Spain, Eastern Europe, France, Italy, and Sicily. Ultimately, the king of the south would like to capture Rome, the symbol of the European religion of Christianity. So now it's talking about this conflict that's going on basically between the Western world and Islam, and that leading up to the end. So the defeat of the king of the south. The king of the south will strike the king of the north. However, we see how they will fail and be defeated by the king of the north. In Daniel 11:40 to 43. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. We see here how the counterattack of the king of the north overwhelmed the king of the south. And he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. So after the defeat of the king of the south, the king of the north, which is the revived Roman Empire, coming from Europe, will enter the glorious land, which is Jerusalem. So basically, this is reminding me of like the Western influence over Israel. That's what I'm seeing here. So when the king of the north enters into the holy place, occupying it, that is the period of time here. Not only that, but it will defeat so many nations, as we read here. But these shall escape from his hand: Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall have power over the treasures of gold, silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. Also the Libyans and Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. It is more likely that Europe will once again have control over Jerusalem, and this is something that many other nations will not like. So now this is talking about a future event, but I think, and I'm not trying to take it directly from them. I'm not trying to take their exact take here, but I do think you start to see a picture of the end times, which could include a lot of what we're seeing today. And I think right now, basically the West occupies Israel. Is that fair to say? Like, they're basically a Western country that's propped up by Western money and Western military.
Or is it the other way around?
I don't think it is. I mean, like, you could make an argument that they are like philosophically and politically in control, but I don't think you can make the argument that the Israeli military is like stronger than the U.S. military. Like,
Oh, certainly not.
No.
so I do think it's some sort of occupation. And you could go both ways with it. We could say that U.S. is occupied by Israeli agents and stuff. All that shit is definitely up for
Yes.
grabs. But the point is, the people that are living there are not the purely Semitic people that were once there. This
No,
is
there's
all
some
Western
they have
influence.
Yeah.
They have European, they have Turkic ancestry.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Russian bear. Here's where things start to get more interesting. We are now about to find Russia in the pages of your Bible. We will finally understand where Russia is in Bible prophecy. Remember, the king of the south attacked the king of the north. However, the north prevailed and defeated the south. Now the north occupies Jerusalem. So in Daniel 11:44 to 45, but news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate him. And he shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him. Carefully take note here the term the east and the north. Possibly this can also mean northeast. Because of the great power of the King of the North, inevitably, the news will spread far and wide. A natural reaction is that the rest of the major powers will be alarmed. They will feel threatened. So, which countries are we seeing on the map when we talk about the east and north of Israel? No doubt today we see more Muslim countries in the east of Israel. We have Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the UAE. If we go farther east, we also see India, which would most likely be involved in the conflict. All these will not just feel alarmed, but also incensed as they look at Jerusalem, their third holiest city, conquered by their mortal enemy. Now, if we looked north of Israel, we see more Muslim countries such as Turkey, Syria, and Lebanon. Here's where Russia enters the scene. Look north of Israel. What is the only superpower you see? That's right, it's Russia. So yeah, now it's getting into this. It's getting into a position where Russia sees the West's involvement in the Middle East, sees how thin it's stretched, how weak it is, how greedy it is, and takes that as an opportune moment to maybe get theirs.
Well, that and also I think the biolabs in Ukraine might have done something to warrant them attacking
But
so suddenly.
that is its own sort of greed. Maybe not
Yeah.
specifically monetary greed, though I think that was also a factor, but that is thinking you can get away with fucking anything.
Well, I wouldn't build a bioweapons facility in the country of Mexico if I was Russia.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. So news from the east and north shall trouble him, therefore he shall go with great fury to destroy and annihilate many. The eastern and northern countries will plan an offensive attack. The king of the north would know about this plan, and thus this news would trouble him. What was the result? The king of the north will attack the northeastern countries, including Russia, with great fury and will destroy and annihilate many. While the king of the north thought that attacking first would be a good idea, in the end we see how the eastern kingdoms would retaliate. So the second woe of Revelation, Revelation 9:13 through 19, gives us more details about what will happen during the battle between the king of the north and the eastern kings. Then the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release the four angels who were bound at the great river Euphrates. So the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released to kill a third of mankind. Now the number of the army of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision. Those who sat on them had breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulphur yellow, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these three plagues a third of mankind was killed, by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which came out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails are like serpents, having heads, and with them they do harm. What we are reading here is actually modern military weapons. Since the Apostle John didn't
Yeah.
know what these things are, he would simply use the terms to describe them, which I'm not so sure about that. I think that's definitely a possibility. But when you read all of that stuff, you have all of these colors, the fire, the smoke, and like these strange creatures. It feels very esoteric to me.
Well, I read, or I should say, I watched some videos a long time ago, and in them was this experimental psychologist whose name is Alan R. Miller, and he expressed the notion that there's many people in the U.S. government and institutions that would like to have revelation come true, and so they're kind of just gonna try and make it happen,
That's
like
fucking
nuclear war.
Zionism.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. 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 Yes.
and
Yeah.
he said it's kind of dumb in his opinion, but he said they're gonna do it anyway because nobody's gonna convince them otherwise because they really believe in it and want the world to end.
There was a time that
Well,
even those people in government were like referred to as like the crazies, like the neocons and like the George W. Bush
Mm.
administration, and all of that. There was a time when they didn't have as much power, and they were referred to as the crazies for like specifically these things, for just wanting to start fucking wars.
Mm.
So there was
That's
a time
crazy.
even in politics, politicians would look down on this sort of thing.
I've
Now,
always heard that the friggin' it's almost a coat too with some boomers where they'll be like oh, the world is so awful. I just want Christ to come and take us away.
I do feel
And I'm
like
Right.
that.
thinking,
I 100%
yes,
feel that way.
yes, I do too. But the thing is, too, though, it's
Oh,
also a cope because it's them justifying not wanting to actually get active in their community and find like-minded
exactly.
people. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
Exactly.
think that really. Maybe for some people it does, but I don't know. I think
yes,
for probably for the majority, I think it probably makes them like more. I don't know exactly what constitutes being more active, but it makes them more friendlier people to their neighbors, more helpful individuals. The types of people who go to church are the types of people who are somewhat active in their
yes, yes.
communities.
Oh yes, I'm not talking bad about that at all. I'm a Christian myself. I'm just saying that there's people that do use that as a cope for not like actively doing anything. Like they'll also do it with politicians, where they'll get, oh, we just need another Trump, guys. If we get another Trump, everything will be fine, guys.
Yeah,
That thing, yeah,
yeah. I'm with you.
it's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's them
For me, it's like
worried
the
but not worried enough.
the Bible says that the people in power were ordained to be empowered by God. But just because it says that, like more importantly in the Bible is to resist evil. So while it doesn't say like go and overthrow the government. Like you have every right to resist an evil
Yes,
government under the rules of Jesus.
and that's another thing is my politics are I just want to be left alone. Like, please don't bring friggin' evil to my area, children or my whoever. Just leave us alone, man. If you want to like turn the world into California, well, there's California for that. Like, why does other places need to look like California? That's my thing.
Well, it's not very nice there, so I thought I would come over here and make
Yeah,
it a little bit better.
worse.
So yeah,
Like
let's like
recently we had
wrap this fucking Bible
bunch of
thing
people
up real
come in.
quick. What you got? Let me know. Talk to me.
Yeah, we got like we have a bunch of people that come here from California and stuff, and they immediately complain that it's not enough like California, but they came
Mm,
here.
mm,
So yeah, and the march of the armies of the Eastern Kingdoms, which include Russia, lead to the greatest war in history. Today, most people call it the Battle of Armageddon, Revelation 16:12 to chapter 16. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. And they gathered them together in the place called, in Hebrew, Armageddon.
mm.
So it's possible that we're looking at here. I do think we are amping up towards what's in the Bible referred to as the end times. I don't know exactly what happens. I don't know if
Yes.
Jesus comes down from the clouds. I don't know
What
if a
happens?
golden age begins at that point.
No, no, no. We. You want to know what happens? You need to leave the Left Behind series. It's like many books,
I
maybe
watched the
40 books or
movies.
more.
Is it legit?
No,
It's
it's a it's a
Yeah,
fiction
I know. I
about
know.
the end
yeah,
times.
it's fiction.
They have microwave guns.
So, Kay, do you believe in like these cycles of ages,
Oh well,
the
time.
yugas?
I've smoked drugs, and I'll tell you, there's infinite space and time, and you could get outside of it, and it looks like there's probably like time loops in time and space
But
and in infinite time.
well, do you believe in like the yugas of like Hinduism or
I don't even know what those really are.
hmm,
It's
okay.
like Hindu stuff. I'm not. I don't know, man. I got a statue of Lord Shiva. I like. He seems cool. I don't know what yugas are though. It's like an age. There's like four of them. I don't know. It's like they're. I've
Yeah,
read the
supposedly
descriptions you
in
got in the Agora books. I don't get it.
like Satya Yuga in like the golden age basically. People are basically telepathic. They're in touch with spiritual powers. They don't need to
No.
eat because they're getting all of their energy from like the sun and prana,
Hmm.
all that stuff.
Well, sure. Why not? I mean, it sounds like they're like if you read the Buddhist and like the Mongolian shaman and the Tibetan Buddhist like uh, origins of the human species. They're basically saying something like that,
Yeah, and
or that
in my mind,
we're alien.
that's what God's kingdom sounds like.
Yeah.
Often I look at the Bible and I see like, all right, so we die and then there is a resurrection and then there's God's kingdom. And to me that almost
Mhm.
seems like an exoteric interpretation of reincarnation. How like you die, you go through a judgment and then you can come out, you get reborn and like you could be living in heaven in God's kingdom or it could be hell. You could be born
Well,
fucking blind and deaf or I don't fucking know. Human
if you get
trafficked.
Nike sneakers, we could go to the alien spaceship that's
How high you
hiding
can
behind a
how high you
comet.
think you can jump with those Nikes? All the way to fucking Saturn?
Depends if we can pump them up or not. If
Pump
they
them,
come with the
pump them up. Fuck yeah. All right, let's get to the fucking the
More of
like
an
topic at hand
elitist
here.
guy myself.
Wasted
like
enough
air.
time on current events. I want to make sure I get my Russia shit in because it feels like everybody wants Russia shit. But here I am reading the
Speaking
Bible.
of
That's what you
elitists,
get.
Russia, Russia.
Fox Rock broke. Fox Rock broke.
Russia.
Hmm?
What's up with that goddamn Fox Rock? Fucking Killing Stone in Japan? It splits, triggering panic among superstitious believers.
Right.
Based on the mythology of the Shisho or Killing Stone, it is said to contain the transformed corpse of a beautiful woman, Tamamo no Mei. Okay, you got anything you want to say before I
How
read this
beautiful are we
article?
talking about here?
She's hot. She's
Um.
hot.
Well, I read some of these articles, and I gotta say it's all pretty interesting. Like you got this character, and she's part of like, okay, so Japan's got Shinto, and Shinto seems to just like eat whatever comes from other countries over time, right? So then they done absorbed all these legends about fox spirits, I guess, and they got them from China and India, and I guess Korea too. And then it's all become kind of one big fox legend. And then this character that you're describing now, some people say it's the same one as you can find in legends going back and back, so they connect like four different historical fox legend people, including some that were like there's one or two of these people that was the subject of the subjects of sort of magic cults in China, where people believed that this lady or these ladies were some kind of fox demon, and you can get some kind of benefit from being part of their cult. I don't know. That's what I read about it there the other night. It's pretty interesting stuff.
So, after a famous volcanic rock, or the so called Killing Stone, was found split in two in Japan, superstitious believers have taken to social media to share their worries about an evil demon. Based on the mythology of the Shishoseki or Killing Stone, it is said to contain the transformed corpse of a beautiful woman, Tamamo no Mei. It is believed
Hmm?
that the woman was an evil nine-tailed fox in disguise, and a part of a feudal landlord's secret plot to kill Emperor Toba, as per the Guardian report. The fox's spirit was then transferred into the stone in Tochigi, near Tokyo. It is believed that the rock was destroyed many years ago, and the spirit was exorcised by a Buddhist monk who later scattered pieces of the rock across Japan. However, many people believe that the spirit's home is still on the slopes of the volcano, Mount Nasu. Superstition has it that it would prove fatal to anyone who comes in contact with the stone.
Hmm.
Visitors who spotted the split stone shared the story of their terrifying moments online. I came alone to Shishoki, where the legend of the nine-tailed fox remains. The big rock in the middle, wrapped around with a rope, is that. It was supposed to be. But the rock was split in half and the rope was also detached. If it's a manga, it's a pattern that the seal is broken and it's possessed by the nine-tailed fox. And I feel like I've seen something that shouldn't be seen. So do you think it is like a manga? It's like one of my Japanese porns.
I gotta say, man, it spooked me. It spooked me because I done had, like I told you, I done had some strange experience with that, right? Like a couple, maybe last year or the year before, I found like that picture I showed you of that fox. So in Japan they got different shrines with foxes and stuff, right? And then
True.
they got this one.
Yeah.
They got this one.
Kitsune,
Uh,
is that how you say that? The fox
I
spirit?
guess. I guess so. Yeah,
Shape
Kitsune or
shifting
something.
fox wench?
Yeah. So they got one, and she's supposed to be some kind of incarnation of a Buddha or the servant of a Buddha. I'm not 100% on that one. And so she got that sword like Fudo Myo, the immovable wisdom king. And then she got like a wish fulfilling jewel, and she sits on a fox, and she's like some kind of fox spirit thingy.
So Midwest Vikinger in the chat asks, would they be classified as a cryptid or a demon? Now I would want to call a fucking kitsune a yokai, but that's probably not right either. Is it? It's
It's
some
it
sort of animistic spirit
it's a
thing?
it's a kami for sure
Kami.
because in Japan all everything's
Okay.
a deity, like the earth and the rocks and the trees and the things that live inside
Do
them.
you know what makes a yokai a yokai? What's a yokai?
No, I think it's like a spooky creature, like a
Spooky
ghost.
dookie? Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think kitsune probably fall into the
Diarrhea
category of
buffalo
yokai.
dye.
Yeah, they're probably yokai.
Scar asks, isn't this
Yeah,
nine-tailed
probably.
fox some shit out of Naruto? Also, there's that Nine-Tails Pokemon. Yeah, it'd definitely be one of my Chinese cartoons.
Yeah,
Chinese.
But at the same time, it's also very similar to a skinwalker. It's extremely
Mm.
similar.
Yeah, you
explain.
know what it kind of is.
Well, because it's this trickster, like scavenger canine fucking
Coyote.
spirit. Yeah, it's the same thing that transforms into like a beautiful woman to
Eh,
go play tricks.
a co- what do you mean a capricious vixen that controls space and time and changes things and one thing into another and tries to consume you?
God, I hate women.
What I want to know is how did they get the rock in the first place?
How did they get it in the rock? That is a good question,
Magic.
Yeah.
actually. There was a story
Magic.
a story I once read, just some fucking green text about some anon saying that when he was a kid, there was a disembodied voice that would like talk to him and play with him while he was out like in the schoolyard. Like you wouldn't play with other kids. He would just have this disembodied voice. Then one
Huh.
day, the disembodied voice told him to get a rock and like fucking paint some sigil on it to make him a home. And then he did, and then he never heard this voice again. So, you'd think because it found its home in the rock, it went into the rock, because that's
Yeah,
where it lives.
yeah.
So I don't know how that
Interesting.
exactly applies to this, but we're going to see that that is a common motif. That's something that you hear in many different cultures, in many different times.
Mm.
So let's go over Tamamo no Mei, meaning Lady Duckweed. One of the most famous kitsune in Japanese mythology, a nine-tailed magical fox. She is also one of the most powerful yokai. Yokai, it's a yokai, confirmed. Is it
Yokai
confirmed?
game.
The most powerful yokai that has ever lived. Her magical abilities were matched only by her trickiness and lust for power. Tamamo no Mei lived during the Heian, I don't know how to say this shit, I'm just guessing, Heian period, and though she may not have succeeded in her plan to kill the emperor and take his place, her actions destabilized the country and led it towards one of the most important civil wars in Japanese history. For that reason,
Wow.
Tamamo no Mei is considered one of the Nihon Sandai Aku yokai, the three terrible yokai of Japan, alongside Shuten Doji and Otakemaru. Otakemaru.
Mm.
So Tamamo no Mei was born some 3,500 years ago in what is now China. Her early life is a mystery, but she eventually became a powerful sorceress. After hundreds of more years, she became a white-faced, golden-furred Kyubi. Kyubi no Kitsune, a nine-tailed fox with supreme magical power. In addition, she was an expert at manipulation. She used her charms and wit to advance her standing and influence world affairs. So God, how do I say this shit? Daji in the Shang Dynasty in China. During the Shang Dynasty, Tamamo no Mei was known as Daji. She disguised herself as a beautiful woman and became the favorite concubine of King Zhao of Shang. Daji was a model of human depravity. She held orgies in the palace gardens. Her fondness for watching and inventing new forms of torture are legendary. Daji eventually brought about the fall of the entire Shang dynasty. She managed to
Wow.
escape execution and fled to the Magadha kingdom in India in 1046 BCE.
Mm.
This
That's where
dude.
Buddha lived.
Oh yeah?
That who did?
Top 10 anime crossovers happening right now.
Mm.
Lady Kaio in India. In Magadha, she was known as Lady Kaio and became a consort of King Kalmashapada, known in Japan as Hanzoku. She used her beauty and charms to dominate the king, causing him to devour children, murder priests, and commit other unspeakable horrors. Eventually, whether because she ran out of children to eat or because Kalmashapada began to turn away from her and towards Buddhism, she fled back to China. Huh. Once again, the Buddhist connection. It was Buddha that saves the day. He got this disgusting bitch away from the based King Kalmashapada and got him on the path of MGTOW. Bao Si in the Zhou dynasty. How do I say that? You know? Okay?
Joe? I don't
Zhou.
know.
During the Zhou dynasty, she called herself Bao Si and was known as one of the most desirable women in all of China. In 779 BCE, she became a concubine of King Yu. Not satisfied as just a mistress, she manipulated the king into deposing his wife, Queen Shen, and making Bao Si his new queen. Though she was beautiful, Bao Si rarely ever smiled. In order to please his beautiful new wife, King Yu committed acts of such evil and atrocity that eventually all of his nobles abandoned and betrayed him. Eventually, King Yu was killed and Bao Si was captured, and the Western Zhou dynasty was brought to an end in 771 BCE. Somehow Bao Si managed to escape again. She went into hiding for many years. Little is known of her activities until the 700s, when she resurfaced disguised as a 16-year-old girl named Wakamo. Wakamo. She tricked the elders of the 10th Japanese envoy to the Tang dynasty, Kibi no Makibi, Abe no Nakamaro, and Kanji. God, shoot me now. And they were preparing to return home to Japan. As they were preparing to return home, she fucking got them. She tricked them. Wakamo joined their crew and took the ship to Japan, where she hid herself away for over 300 years. What did she do? She just punked them? Doesn't even say. She tricked the leaders. Whatever. Exploits in Japan. In the 1090s, she resurfaced once again. This time she transformed herself into a human baby and hid by the side of the road. A married couple found the baby and rescued it, taking her in as their daughter and naming her Mikuzume. She proved to
That's
be
kind of interesting because
Go on.
Changeling.
it sounds a lot like Irish or Celtic folklore with changelings,
Yeah.
where one of the Fey things abducts a child and replaces it with like a Fey child. And then the parents continue to raise them.
Yokai are very similar to Fae in a lot of ways. In these like trickster aspects, all that stuff is there. But then it's like in their origins as like nature spirits, like that's very common in both of them as well.
That's interesting.
So a married couple found the baby and rescued it, taking her in as their daughter and naming her Mikuzume. She proved to be an exceedingly intelligent, talented young girl and was so beautiful that she attracted the attention of everyone around her. When she was 7 years old, Mikuzume recited poetry before the emperor. His imperial majesty immediately took a liking to her and employed her as a servant in the court. Mikuzume excelled at court, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. There was no question that she could not answer, whether it was about music, history, astronomy, religion, or Chinese classics. Her clothes were always clean and unwrinkled. She always smelled pleasant. Mikuzume had the most beautiful face in all of Japan, and everyone who saw her loved her. During the summer of her 18th year, a poetry and instrument recital was held in Mikuzume's honor. During the recital, an unexpected storm fell upon the palace. All of the candles in the recital room were snuffed, leaving the participants in the dark. Suddenly, a bright light emanated from Mikuzume's body, illuminating the room. Everybody at court was so impressed by her genius and declared that she must have had an exceedingly good and holy previous life. She was given the name Tamamo no Mei. Emperor Toba, already exceedingly fond of her, made her his consort. Almost immediately after she became the emperor's consort, the emperor fell deathly ill. None of the court physicians could determine the cause, and so the Anmyoji Abe no Yasunari was called in. Abe no, Abe no Yasunari read the emperor's fortune and divined that he was marked by a bad omen. After that, the highest priests and monks were summoned to the palace to pray for the emperor's health. The best prayers of the high priests had no effect, however. The emperor continued to grow worse. Abe no Yasunari was summoned again to read the emperor's fortune. This time, to his horror, the Anmyoji discovered that the emperor's beloved Tamamo no Mae was the cause of his illness. She was a kitsune in disguise and was shortening the emperor's lifespan in order to take over as ruler of Japan. Emperor Toba was reluctant to believe the diviner's words, but agreed to Tamamo no Mae just to be sure. To save the emperor's life, Abe no Yasunari prepared the Taizan Fukun no Sai, the most secret and most powerful spell known to Anmyodo. Maybe that's how you say it. Tamamo no Mae was ordered to perform part of the ritual. They reasoned that an evil spirit would not be able to participate in such a holy ritual. Though she was reluctant to participate, the emperor's ministers persuaded her. They told her that it would increase her standing and admiration among the court. She had little choice but to accept. When the ritual was performed, Tamamo no Mae dressed even more beautifully than normal. She recited the holy words as expected, and played her part extremely well. But just as she prepared to wave the ceremonial staff, she vanished. Abe no Yasunari's divination was confirmed. The court flew into an uproar. Need a little bit of water. Then I'll read the death of the kitsune. Kill the bitch. Kill the witch. Burn her.
I don't know. She sounds kind of hot.
Soon
So
after.
you know,
She's
Go on.
just trying
you
to take over
wonder
the
about
world.
Go on.
I was gonna say you wonder about the connection with like the jinn from Islam and stuff, where you get the wonder if water does anything to these creatures.
Maybe. I'd be very interested. I'd like to look into that more about like water's interaction with like fae and with yokai. And there's lots of yokai that live in water. So
Kappa.
I
yeah,
heard they like
exactly.
milk. I don't know how true that is.
Never know. Never know until you try it.
Yeah, I was reading a green text. It could have been like a load of shit, but it said this dude had bought a house in Oregon near a boulder field, and he brought his like 2-year-old son and his wife there, and his son started telling him later on that there was a kid in the house, and he was like, "Well, that's weird. There's no one else here." And he heard his kid talking to someone, and then all of a sudden his kid tells him his new friend loves milk and dates, and like this is a 3-year-old kid, he doesn't know what date is,
Yeah.
and so he gets fucking weirded out, and then he finds a hanger like fucking floating in the closet. It's not connected to anything; it's just floating there. And at this point, that's all he said had happened. It was weird so far, but he didn't like living in the house. But a lot of people in the comments are saying that's like Fae related and shit with the milk and the dates. And
Yeah. I don't believe in ghosts. So
yeah,
you gotta, for me, I always wind up attributing that to like some beings on some other plane. I don't know if that means demons or fae, if they're the same thing,
you
if
know,
it means.
in Slavic folklore, they have a, I think it's a Damar something. It
Domovoy?
means home
Domovoy?
guardian. Domovoy, yes, Domovoy. They have the Domovoy, and those are because Dom is home in a lot of Slavic languages. But and they live in the house, and if you're like a fucking dirty and you don't keep your house clean, they'll get pissed off and they'll set your house on. Yeah.
Punked again. Soon after, word arrived that women and children were disappearing near Nasuno in Shimotsuke province. Disappearances, huh? Here we go. The court sorcerers determined that Tamamo no Mae was the cause, and it was decided that she must be destroyed once and for all. The emperor summoned the best warriors in all the land and then charged the most superb of them, Kazu Sano Suke, and I can't say these words, Mirano Suke, to find Tamamo no Mae. The warriors gladly accepted the honor. They purified themselves and set out with an army of 80,000 men to slay the nine-tailed kitsune. Upon reaching Nasuno, The army quickly found the kitsune. The warriors chased her for days and days, but the fox used her magical powers and outsmarted them time and time again, easily escaping. The army grew weary and frustration set in. It seemed that nothing they did was working. However, Kazusano Suke and Mirano Suke would not accept the shame of defeat and vowed to press on. They practiced harder, honing their tactics, and eventually picked up the kitsune's trail. One night, one of them had a prophetic dream. A beautiful young girl appeared before him, crying. She begged, "Tomorrow I will lose my life to you. Please save me." They adamantly refused, and upon waking, the warriors set out again to find Tamamo no Mae. Sure enough, the next day they caught her. Miranosuke fired 2 arrows, one of them through the fox's flank and one through its neck. Kazusanosuke swung his blade. It was over, just as the dream had said. However, Tamamo no Mae's evil did not end with her death. 1 year after she died, Emperor Kono died heirless. The following year, her lover and former Emperor Toba died as well. A succession crisis ignited between forces loyal to Emperor Go Shirakawa and forces loyal to the former Emperor Sutoku. This crisis started the Fujiwara Minamoto rivalry that led to the Genpei War, the end of the Heian period, and the rise of the first shoguns. As if that were not enough, Tamamo no Mae's spirit haunted a massive boulder, which killed every living thing that touched it. And there we end
Wow.
with the boulder. Once again, the spirits in the rocks, the boulder fields.
In the
And
rocks.
now notice this is people going missing. So you go out and you hunt the creature, at which point it seems you can't kill it. It retreats into a boulder as if that's where it lives.
Yeah.
It's a recurring theme here. So anyway, did you guys realize that giant spiders are expected to drop from the sky across the East Coast this spring? The Joro spider from
Yes.
fucking Japan.
It's gonna be fucking based.
Is this part of some fucking trickster spirits? I don't know. The games they're
Spiders
playing
I, for
with
one,
us?
welcome our new arachnid over.
Is this because of Tamamo, do you think?
It could be related.
Maybe.
She could be sending us spiders with her free.
So, okay, you got three options here. You can either have viral apocalypse, you can have nuclear apocalypse, or spooky spoder apocalypse.
Spooky spoder.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that one every time. All right.
They probably bring like computer science.
Computer science degrees.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move. We'll fucking do a pivot here, and we will go into other beings living in the boulders. Maybe some other folklore too. So elves like humans. They are like us. So there are Icelandic elves that are known as the Hidden People. They're pretty much the same size as humans and live in a parallel world similar to ours. They carry on normal lives alongside us that include fishing, farming, and raising families. They even go to church on Sundays. They can help humans in trouble, but they can also cause mischief and injury to those who disrespect them. One theory about how the elves came to be relates back to Adam and Eve. When God came to visit, Eve was ashamed of some of her children, who hadn't had time to wash, so she hid them away. Upon discovering them, God declared that what man had hidden from God, God would hide from man. Thus the fairies came into being, only visible to a few gifted people. A 2007 survey by the University of Iceland found that while only 8% of respondents were certain that elves existed, over 80% refused to deny that they exist. And 62% believed that the existence of these beings was more than just a fairy tale. So these folkloric stories are very alive in Iceland, probably much the same way they are in Japan. So now we have the rock that housed an elf church. Nowhere is the depth of belief more evident to the rest of the world than in the construction industry. One incident in particular made headlines outside of Iceland. Just north of... Once again, fucking let me just pronounce this shit real quick. What?
Here, I'll tell you. Is it Reykjavik?
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Reykjavik. Reykjavik. That's what it said. Reykjavik.
There stands a rock known as... No, good luck. When Afigiskirjura, I don't know. I
Elves.
can't say these words. How do you put a fucking? How do you put an R, a K, a J, an R, a K, and a J all back to back like that? You can't do that. When
They're like the
Yeah.
Vikings, dude.
when plans are being made to build a road that would destroy the rock and cut through surrounding lava fields, protesters came forward and the project ground to a halt. The ongoing dispute was covered in British newspaper The Guardian in two articles. Blah blah blah. The group Friends of Lava protested that there would be damage to the rocks of the lava field. That they were joined by something who claimed elves had spoken to her and warned her that they had a church inside of that fucking rock or whatever. So yeah, now you have this fucking protest group coming and they're stopping fucking construction, the destruction of the natural land, and they're saying you can't fuck up this forest, this fucking boulder field, this whatever it is, because this is where the elves live and that's their church. This is so much more
Yeah.
based than protests, in America.
Here, yeah,
Come on,
We gotta pull down
for
that
sure.
statue because it reminds me of racism.
how about this?
Uh,
We have to go to the Capitol building and drag all of the politicians out by their hair because that land is where elves go to church. That's right.
I don't think anybody's Irish enough for that.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know how any of this works. I want to read more of this, but since I can't pronounce any of it, I'm just about to give up.
Alpha scared.
Thanks to this person communication with the hidden people, a compromise was reached. The elves moved their altar and pews out of the rock, and the construction workers were able to move the obstacle out of their way and continue with the road. So that's how this ended. That's very fucking strange. What the hell kind of person can tell the elves to move? Just move from your house? Maybe this is all
Well,
psyop.
I guess they all went and stood outside the rock and were like, hi elves, please move your shit out of your church so we can move your church out of our way so we can build our whatever so you know, whatever.
I guess. I guess.
I
I don't
guess,
know. Maybe they brought some bread and milk and dates.
So we got Trey in the fucking chat. Fuck yeah, time to smoke weed and listen to Uncle Yak's schizo stream. Fuck yeah, fucking a. Arcandre is saying that the elf church is the church of Satan. I think that's what he's saying. Asterios asks, why would elves go to church? They would be burnt instantly. We got a lot of fucking elves or demons people in the chat. I don't blame you.
Well, there is one rule around elves. So the one rule is around elves, you got to watch yourself.
Watch yourselves.
Isn't it?
That's true. That's true. So, yeah, now we've firmly established that these beings, whatever they are living in the rocks. Now we can go on and connect that to Missing 411, I think. Because that's a favorite from David Paulides, always saying that the boulder fields are a very important part of these missing people stories. That and like people collecting berries, as if that has a similar sort of thing. People just disappearing into the berry bushes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me go to.
For sure, it's weird. Yeah.
Let's hit up
there's
that.
stories of it.
The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries by W.Y. Evans Wentz. Now, this is like the authoritative book on the Fae folk. It was published in 1910. So a century before David Paulides. People tend to disappear near boulder fields, it says. Fairy
Yes.
preserves. A heap of stones in a field should not be disturbed. Though needed for building, especially if they are part of an ancient tumulus, the fairies are said to live inside the pile, and to move the stones would be most unfortunate. And I'm pretty sure most unfortunate here means dead. You die.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, where I live, we got Irish people, and we know from the Native American peoples that they do not like the areas that the Irish people say the fairies live in, and yeah, Irish people say the fairies live in these places with these big old rocks, and the Native American people say they do not like that place because it got like a weirdo things that'll kidnap you,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we say. Yeah, and the people here that's Irish, they will tell you that you don't go out in that area alone by yourself to pick berries. You don't do that.
Yep.
So to continue, it says where fairies live. When I asked Patsy where the fairies live, he turned half around and pointing in the direction of the Dún Aengus, which was full in view of the sharp skyline of Aranamore, said that there, in large tumulus on the hillside below it, they had one of their favorite abodes, but he added, the rocks are full of them, and they are small fellows. The little people hiding in the rocks. So people tend to disappear near berry bushes. I'm continuing with the same book here. A girl recovered from fairy one day just before sunset in midsummer, and I, a boy then, my brother and cousin and myself were gathering bilberries, or whortleberries, up by the rocks at the back of here, when all at once we heard music. We hurried round the rocks, and there were within few hundred feet of 6 or 8 of the gentle folk, and they dancing. When they saw us, a little woman dressed in all red came running out from them toward us, and she struck my cousin across the face with what seemed to be a green rush. We ran for home as hard as we could, and when my cousin reached the house, she fell dead. Father saddled a horse and went for Father Ryan. When Father Ryan arrived, he put a stole about his neck and began praying over my cousin, and reading psalms and striking her with the stole, and in that way brought her back. He said if she had not caught hold of my brother, she would have been taken forever. So we were told as children that as soon as night fell, the fairies from Roth Ringelstown would form in a procession across Tara Road, pass round certain bushes which have not been disturbed for ages, and join the Gankina, or host of industrious folk, the Red Fairies. We were afraid, and our nurses always brought us home before the advent of the fairy procession. One of the passes used by this procession happened to be between 2 mud-wall houses, and it is said that a man went out of one of these houses at the wrong time, for when found he was dead. The fairies had taken him because he interfered with their procession. And it says after the 31st of October, or after Halloween, the blackberries are not fit to eat, for the pixies have been over them. So
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, like that's with like Scottish and Irish
now
folklore.
this seems to be saying, like, it's almost saying like when you are taken, like you physically die. I don't know if it's trying to say that you are like enslaved in another realm or something like that. I'm almost getting that sort of thing from it.
Yeah,
So now here was the story of that it was talking about how like by the berry bushes music was heard before the encounter with the fairies. And that's not the first time I saw that either. See if I can pull this up in a timely manner. So here we have an encounter with I don't know what this is, encounter with rocks. This woman reporting the encounter was a teacher at a college, and for purposes of this narrative went by the pseudonym Dr. Jean Smith. She and her husband were camping in Arizona and hiked into the mountains where nothing was to be heard except for the occasional call of birds. I was standing in front of a wall of granite boulders of all shapes and sizes when all of a sudden I heard the most beautiful singing I have ever heard. There were no words, but the joyous music just kept on. I stood there rooted to the spot, entranced, hardly daring, literally, to believe my ears. The music came from the boulders. I looked around, and as I did, it was as if I became a truly genuine part of the universe. I had the wonderful feeling of sharing or being shared with. It was as if the sky above and the clouds, the breeze, the bushes, everything realized I could participate. I felt somehow as if I really belonged. All the restlessness in me was stilled, and I was filled with a glorious sense of peace and love. Gradually, the other occupants of the universe became aware that this stranger, I, was becoming part of the experience. They, sky, clouds, rocks, desert, bushes, moved over, as it were, and gave me a place among them. She is aware, she knows, seemed the communication, and I was humbly grateful for this quiet acceptance. They kind of moved over and let me in joyously, as if happy to have me. All the while, the beautiful voices singing from the boulders kept on. I really can't find the right words. No words can truly relate the wonder and joy of that time. The music, the singing kept on. She went on to feel the possibilities that we humans could indeed get our acts together simply because these others can. And this is like another fucking alien contact story. This is like the demons contact you to try to fucking like indoctrinate you into whatever they want you to believe to go like pass their message.
yeah, it is kind of weird.
Once
Yeah.
again, you have the singing near the boulder fields or near the berries, and I've heard plenty of stories about like music out in the wilderness, drawing people out, leading them further and further out into the middle of nowhere,
Further,
totally
yeah,
lost.
and lots too. Like there's that one missing 411 thing where the guy was a firefighter with his son, and they were bird hunting, and they got lost. And he saw headlights, what he thought were headlights, out in the distance, and he would chase after them, thinking he could get help for his son because his son had like a broke ankle. And he chased them, and every time he'd get like within 10 yards of them, they would take off another like 20. And he eventually gave up and turned around. And he came back to his son. His son was like off the edge of a cliff, dead somehow, despite having a broken ankle.
Yeah. So, and I think if we're comparing Fae to like Jinn in particular, then they have free will. They can either be like helpful or evil or some mix of the two. They're like us, like humans. I don't know if the same can be said. The same could probably be said for many yokai. I don't know about Kami. I don't know about the hierarchy of the spirits or whatever. But it seems
Hmm.
to me that they could probably be good or evil. Am I
Right.
right?
Seems that way.
Right. Yes.
I would agree.
But I kind of think the Jinn like to tell people they're good and then give them raw deals.
Eh,
Well, that's humans too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
So,
you wished for $1 million? Well, here's $1 million, but the catch is it came out of someone else's bank account, and the police are coming after you.
dude, it's the monkey's paw all
Yeah,
over again.
yeah, yeah.
So I found this story. Now we're getting into full missing 411 territory. I went missing in the Grand Teton National Park for 3 hours and have no memory of it. He
Ugh.
says, after recently watching videos from the Can-Am Missing Project, David Paulides thing, I want to talk about what happened to me when I was 15 years old. I'm from the Midwest. We went to the Grand Tetons for a climbing trip. I had 4 years of experience climbing, mostly sport and trad. I don't know what that means exactly. It's totally trad. My group consisted of my father, who had
Oh, sadly.
an equal amount of climbing experience, and three others who had at least 8 or more years each individually. All of us were experienced with hiking and backpacking. What we were doing that day was not mountaineering or multi-pitch climbs, just quick, easy climbs. We park in the parking lot, get to the boat shuttles us across the lake, then it's a quick hike to the areas that we're going to be in. It's been a while, but the distance from the dock to the area that we were going to be at had to be under a mile, if not half a mile walking distance. That day it was just me, my father, and one other from our group. We were there sometime in late summer. We get to our area, do our climb, start heading back to the dock, and that's where my story starts. It was late afternoon when we started walking back. If I had to guess, the time was between 3 and 5 p.m. My single father had been hitting on the female from our group we went with that day, the whole day. Me being 15 and not wanting to be around that, decided to walk ahead of the two of them and get to the dock as soon as possible. On me, I had my personal climbing gear and one of the 200-foot ropes. My dad was carrying 200-foot ropes. My dad was carrying the bulk of the gear placement and other run of ropes. The chick had her personal gear and a day pack. Again, we're not so far off from the transportation or people, so we didn't need a lot outside of our climbing stuff. I stress this because we were not deep in the woods or some area that you would assume it would be easy to go missing in. Our goal area was very close to the docks, and we were on trails the whole time. So I'm power walking away from them, and I say I'll meet them at the boat. I'm doing this maybe not even 15 minutes. I can't remember exactly how long, but it wasn't long after that it happened. I'm on the trail, but then I'm not on the trail. The trail is well defined. You can clearly see where you're supposed to go and where to walk. I'm on the trail, I'm walking. Next thing, I'm not. I'm on a large, flat rock, standing. The rope I was carrying isn't done up proper. It's a mess. I'm still holding it, but it's like a power cord that's all tangled up. First thing I'm thinking is how could I have been so stupid to leave the trail? I kept thinking, what the fuck did you do? What the fuck did you do? I looked around. The rock I was on was one flat solid piece, probably 30 to 40 foot in length, width, and flowed into the earth. Sparse trees and vegetation surrounded three sides of the rock. Steep cliff hill on one side facing the lake. No trail in sight, but I could see the lake. I was very close to it. I started yelling hello. I did this maybe 3 or 4 times. Then a woman answered back. She was maybe 15 to 20 yards behind me on the trail. I went to her. She asked how long I had been lost. I told her 10 minutes. Though I didn't know, that's what it felt like. I thanked her and made my way back to the boat. I get to the boat. My dad and the chick from our group are there. They're talking to people in the dock. They were about to call search and rescue. They told me I'd been gone for almost 3 hours. I told them it's only been like 15 minutes, but they were all adamant and worried, saying it was 3 hours. The sun was low, getting darker. I have no memory of that time. I was walking on the trail, then I wasn't. Then I was on the rock. I remember absolutely nothing about walking off the trail. It felt like I'd lost no time at all. That the walk back to the boat was the amount of time it should have taken. Besides what felt like 10 minutes of becoming aware of being on the rock, calling for help, and then the amount of time of hurrying back to the boat. This experience always stuck with me. And then that week he discovered David Paulides. Changed his life, as it does.
You
So,
know, and the thing about that is, what's weird about that? It's either there's two things it could be. It's either something is grabbing people, like a UFO or fucking or something like the Fae that can like either knock them out to where they don't realize the time has gone by like that, or can just alter the time if it's like the Fae. And then it's taking them doing whatever it wants with, which I guess with like a UFO they'd be taking genetic samples or some shit. And then it's or the Fae, they're I don't know, they're taking maybe hair or something they can do with. I don't know how that would work,
gotta get that
but
hair.
and then they're yeah, and then they're fucking just leaving them wherever they think. Oh, they'll get back to civilization from here. I'll just put them here on this big flat. See what I
Yeah.
mean? That's yeah,
And so we're back to the goddamn rocks again. Stay away from those rocks,
and yeah.
folks. Don't be fucking around with those rocks. Here we have a Welsh fairy tale. A girl who was a maid to an elderly couple. The maid went away with the fairies. She always used to hear the mysterious singing and used to leave gifts of food for the fairies and find and dance with them by the river. But the fairy king fell in love with her and took her away into the rock face. Once again, we're heading into those rocks. The rock face was open for fairies, even though it was closed for people. They had magic to make it open for the girl. She lived in rags in a cave with her baby, but she wasn't aware of it because she was seeing fairy enchantment, not the human world. She was seeing the fairy world. Her employer got a knock on the door on a stormy night, and a little dwarf man said he needed the old lady to help teach the girl how to care for the baby. So he took her on a silver horse into the rock face, and when she saw the girl in the dank cave, she thought it was madness. But she saw the girl rubbing ointment in her baby's eyes, so she sneaked a bit on one eye and could see the cave become a beautiful enchanted palace. And the girl was dressed in amazing royal clothes. So the old lady kept her promise and showed the girl how to care for a young baby. Then the king delivered the old lady home with gold for reward. But the old lady didn't tell she could see fairies in one eye until there was a bazaar in the county. She saw all the fairy people came, and she saw the king and queen and said hello to them. And the fairy king got angry and said, "How can you see me?" And when she said, "This eye," he blew on it, and all the fairies disappeared, and she never saw them again. So you guys think that these fairies are working for Mossad and taking people into the deep underground military bases?
Okay, I've returned. I had to cram my face with food and stuff.
Delicious, delicious.
Yeah.
Havelock says, in
Taste.
the part of the country I live, we used to believe in the tiny people up to about 1900. Mostly the old and children. Then though, apparently not most adults. Arcandre says human labels and classifications for God knows what. I always hated those things, those classifications, those lines in the sand. I'll break them every time.
Yeah.
So, Polak, you got any missing 411 stories you want to bring up?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me pull up the. Let me get off friggin' Vidya games here, and I'll pull up the ones I posted in the tape eaters. 1 second.
Oh, I got some ready to go. I was just hoping I could
Oh,
stall so that I didn't have to read immediately.
I got them ready. Yeah, here they are. They're up.
Based.
So the one I wanted to talk about first was one that was in New Mexico, and this one was strange because if I remember right, like the way police, because I watched the fucking missing 411 hunters. He has a he has it up on his YouTube channel. You can watch it for free with ads. So it's a pretty good watch,
I
actually. I mean,
fucking hate that
there's a little.
movie. It's a
I
sh-
don't know. I enjoyed it,
my
but
here's my issue. It was just poorly fucking made. Because by the end of that movie,
yeah, I
when you're
mean,
supposed to be thinking like, "Wow, something weird's going on," I'm sitting here thinking, "Man, that family
hmm,
killed their kid,"
Huh.
and it kind of proved
yeah.
that
No,
point. That's not what they were aiming
that was the
for.
first one. That was the first one.
Oh,
Now I'm
okay,
talking about the second one. He made another. He
okay.
made another that was way better. Yes. Yeah, I agree. The family killed their freaking kid probably the first one, but the second one was really weird. He brought up the interview with the dude, and they said his family. Ah, here it is. Okay, so he said the guy was. Ah, here we go. All right, so the guy was Stanley Vigil. He was 54 years old. He was found. His body was found in the Pecos River. So when did this happen? This happened April 9th, 2018. So, body of Stanley Vigil, 54, was found about 2 p.m. by an off-duty state police officer who was fishing near the village of San Jose, San Miguel County. State police spokeswoman Lieutenant Elizabeth Armio said investigators transported the body to Albuquerque for an autopsy. And this is what they said happened to him. They said they'd been deer hunting and they were like, I guess, driving and looking for deer. And the thing with that is that might be illegal. I don't know. We're in my state, you can't shoot deer out of a vehicle or like try to find them with a vehicle, but might be different there. But they saw deer and he jumped out of the vehicle with his rifle or whatever and started making his way towards the deer to get a shot at him. And his dad, thought, okay, I'll sit here. He'll shoot the deer and he'll come back because his dad's like this old 70-year-old man, I guess. This dude's in his 50s. No, it was his brother. I'm sorry. His brother was. That's okay. So that makes more sense. He said he never heard a shot, and the dude never came back. So he got concerned, and he called. After like 3 hours, he called the Park Service, and they started looking for him. They couldn't find him. And then on the other side of the park, there was a gas station. And the manager there said, "Oh yeah, that dude came in here like 20 minutes ago, and he was panicking and telling us there were people chasing him in the park, and he was trying to get away from these people." And then he supposedly got back off into the woods and ended up dead in the Pecos River. And that's what's weird. And they also found a campsite that said near the river. So apparently he had set up a camp, but he didn't have any camping supplies. They said on when he ran off. So that's really weird. Where did he find the camping supplies?
Yeah, this is
And
another
then that was the
story.
first.
We've heard multiple stories about people saying that they're chased. People go missing in the woods. They say they're
Yes,
chased. Nobody fucking believes them. They just call them a schizo and tells them to fuck off.
and they end up dead. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. That was the first one that I thought was weird. And then there was this other one that was really friggin' strange. And this one's not even hunter. So this one kind of is a missing folk, but it's more of urban ones. Uh, this dude, what was his name? Friggin' uh,
Well, fucking.
I'm pulling it up because
Is
this
it
guy has
Mitchell
a.
Dale Stelling or is that a different one? That's the one I have.
No, no,
Alright.
no, it's the other guy. Dwight Clark and Blair Glanderstrom. Uh, this dude was one of them was a college kid at a local university. This was in Washington, Bellingham, Washington, and he was a college student or whatever. And he went to a party one whatever, and they said didn't drink very much. He had 3 beers, and then he had smoked like a very little bit of weed. They said he took like a couple of hits off a bomb, and that was it. And he was like a stoner, so like it wouldn't have affected him, in a
Yeah.
bad way or made him. Yeah, so he's used to it. So then he decided he was going to go back home, and the next day he had like final exams or whatever for college. Well, the first thing that goes wrong is he doesn't show up for the final exams, so no one thinks anything of it. And then his parents can't contact him. No one can contacting. This happened in what year was this? Uh, hang
Was
on.
this the guy who
Trying to
fucking
find
left
out if I remember.
the cell phone messages?
No, no, this one's worse than that. This one I found really disturbing because of how did he get into this place? But okay, I want to say it's 2007. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think 2007. But he ended up going walking home that night. They caught him on video, and for whatever reason, he was jogging in like the opposite direction of where he should have been going, like almost like something was chasing him on the video. And that's the only evidence they had. And they couldn't find him for like said 2 or 3 weeks, and they finally started looking in the whole area, like into the ocean. Did he fall into the ocean? Maybe that's what happened, even though he was nowhere. He should have not been nowhere near the ocean. And they look at this old abandoned uh, Georgia Pacific chemical plant that had been closed since like 1990, and it had razor wire fences. The fences went into the ocean, so there's no real way to like get around the perimeter without getting all cut up. And it said it had 2 layers of security. The building was locked and the gates were locked. And somehow he got into this place and was drowned in like the chemical treatment pool. And they like found his body just like in this place. It's locked up. And that one was fucking weird because like why was he even in that area? Like what chased him to what forced him to go the opposite way he should have?
Yeah, I what's that called? Compelling force.
Yeah,
That's from
something
the
scared
like
him so bad.
Dyatlov Pass incident. Like they could never figure out what went wrong
Yeah,
there, so they called it like a compelling force caused all this chaos to happen. That's how it seems.
but you know it's weird too because a dude back in 1998, Blair Grandestrom, did the same thing and died the same way in the same chemical pool.
That's bizarre. That's definitely bizarre.
Yeah,
It reminds me of the
he was also a
story.
college student at the
It's a
same. Yeah,
serial killing. That's just a serial killing.
but how are they getting the fucking plant where it's locked up and
Oh, we don't know.
Inside
surveyed?
job.
Somebody's clever.
Maybe, but even if that's the case, it's still fucking scary. There's like serial killers targeting college students
Oh
for no
yeah.
reason, like everywhere. Yeah.
One of my favorites is a story of another college student who got like mildly inebriated, but it wasn't a big deal, and they went to go home. Next thing you know, it's like the morning. They never arrived, and their mom has like voicemails on her phone of like of them being like panicked and like begging for help, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, I remember
situation's
that.
not clear. And then they're found like they had drowned in like 6 inches of fucking water, like in a drainage ditch
Yeah,
somewhere. And that's the like. There's
yeah,
no
like they were
other
shoved in it.
indications.
And then there was the black dude that was a politician in Minnesota that this happened to, and this one was really freaking too. He was on the phone with his wife, and all of a sudden she heard like wind pick up really bad in his life, and then she heard him say, "No, please get away from me. No, get away from me. I don't want you near me. Get away." And then the phone cuts off, and then she panics and calls the police or whatever, and they go look for him. He was supposed to be at a club, and he was going to leave the club or whatever, go to a gas station, and go home. And they showed him show up at the gas station, and then he just walks off from this gas station. No reason why. He walks off into this wooded area behind it, and then just disappears. And they couldn't find him on camera or anywhere. And that turns out 3 miles down the road, he's dead in the middle of this friggin' pond on an island in the middle of this pond where there's no water and there's water all around it. Yet there's no mud on his shoes or his socks.
Yeah.
Like something picked him up, carried him, and they said the cause of death was like his head was constricted, like he was suffocated, but like something wrapped him up or something.
Yeah, it's a
Like it
common
wasn't like
thing.
he was beat over the head. Yeah,
Another thing is stories of like kids going missing and then being found on like a little island in like a swamp where like they couldn't have gotten there without getting wet, yet they're totally dry, sitting on this one dry island of the swamp, and that's where they're found and rescued by people who get all sorts of wet trying to rescue them.
and then they say, and then the kids usually say, "Oh, well, Mr. Bear took me to
Yeah.
this island, and he fed me berries, and I took a nap, and Mr. Bear took care of me for a while.
Yeah.
And then there was one I was reading. This was in, I want to say it was in Grand Teton, so it was the same fucking area that one dude went missing for 3 hours in. But they said there was a park ranger that said they had a child that went missing for like 16 hours, and they found him. And when they asked where he was, that he said the fuzzy man took me, and they thought, okay, Bigfoot, fuzzy man, or it's a bear or something. And they'd asked him to describe, well, okay, can you describe us how he was fuzzy? Did he have hair? And the kid went, no, he wasn't fuzzy as in he had hair, but it hurt to look at him. He looked fuzzy. And that was fucking weird. That, yeah. And he described it as, from what he could say, it almost sounded like the Wendigo stuff, where he said its limbs were pale and gone.
Yeah. I'm the
Yeah.
That's funny. It's like the fucking classic joke, like maybe Bigfoot's blurry and that's why you can't get a photo of him. But like there are
Yeah.
stories like fuck if you look up Glimmerman, the Glimmerman is an interesting like cryptid or whatever you want to call it, where it's basically like the Predator in fucking fighting fucking
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger,
that
like the
woman.
way it distorts the things around it, like almost like it has some reflective thing. It reflects the things that are around it, making it like effectively like transparent from your point of view, and you
Mm,
can't quite see it. There's a lot of stories like that. I wonder if that's like fucking cloaking technology that the government uses to kidnap people into their underground bases.
I
probably.
mean, it could be. But you know what? If they do have this technology, that doesn't mean it's like not inherently demonic. Like they could have just got it
Could
for
always be
demons
demons,
LARPing.
that's for sure.
You guys use this
Demons
word a
LARPing.
lot.
Demons?
Mm.
It's
Demons,
kind
yeah.
of a meme because we talked about aliens for so
Yeah.
long and it was constant people saying they're demons. I'm not arguing with you.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just the audience. The audience calls everything demons. I always
I mean,
keep the demons take like it's open. It's an option.
I
Don't always
guess.
have
I
to go
mean,
with demons.
it's,
I
No, I'm
got
not.
another case here.
eh,
I'm not sitting here trying to be right all the
This
time
is
either.
the
I'm just talking about weird
yeah.
shit, dude. I'm the weirdest take.
mm.
This is the worst fucking case I've read. So this one bothered me. When I read it. Like I had like I didn't sleep good that night after I read this one because it was so weird the way this happened. All right. So the last dude was Mitchell Dale Stalling or Staling, I think is his German name. He's 51. He had set out in June 2013 for a very short hike because the dude's old. He's not going to go on a long hike, and he's going up to Park Spruce Tree House, a 130 archaeological site with 8 ceremonial chambers known as kivas. The man's wife, Deneen Stalling, speculated that her directionally challenged husband, hiking without water and map that sunny day, might have misled to sign pointing to the Chapin Mesa Archaeological Museum and inadvertently went off trail. And that sounds reasonable, but it gets weirder. Like, uh, so a family spotted him near Petroglyph Point Trail, the 2.4 mile long, narrow and rocky path. In the stone staircase to reach the top, there are places along the trail where it wouldn't be hard for someone to wander in the back country, but the back country it's not like a sheer cliff. It's still easy to fairly walk into. It's not like we're not all the way up the mountain. So it's still weird that he went off trail running. The family told Stalling's wife they leapfrogged past one another and were together at Petroglyph Point, 1.4 miles from the trailhead, but they never saw him afterwards. Neither did anyone else. Though later reports from a hiker on Petroglyph Trail, 2 weeks later approximately, who claimed to have heard someone calling for help. When approaching the area she heard the noise calling from, she could find no one. So she notified the rangers. The park rangers, after doing the initial search the day of and couldn't find him, they get a whole nother together and they comb the entire park. So basically, you don't know how like they search for someone. They use a grid system. And they
Yeah.
take like string and they tie grids and they look in this grid and it ensures that every place is looked at, basically every little square that someone can be at, and they couldn't find him. So still, it's a failure to find him. And then a week later, a journalist was out there and heard his voice from another place. So this place was like half a mile down the opposite way of the park. So that makes no sense. If he fell, okay, if he fell, let's say he somehow got to the top and fell off. How is he moving 1.5 miles with probably all broken limbs? Like, there's no way that dude was uninjured if he fell, off the side of a mountain or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's weird that they heard him in another place. And so she went and notified the park rangers, but the park rangers told her that two searches had been conducted and they were declaring him missing, and it's now a cold case. So this is in 2014. So this is a year later. Uh, it says Mesa Verde Fridays announced Friday, 2019, that an anonymous tip led to the discovery of human remains in a remote area of the park. Park law enforcement rangers, with assistance from ISB and Montezuma County Coroner's Office, located and retrieved the remains on Thursday. So basically, the way they found him says was 4.2 miles, the opposite way of the park from where he should have went missing at. So if he fell off there, how did he get all the way around the mountain?
Yeah.
And yeah, like that, none of this makes any sense. And then the voices like being heard in different places and causing the search party to get distracted. That's friggin' really strange.
That's another
And they
thing that
always just
comes
try
up
to
all
just
the
help me,
time.
help me.
You hear that in a lot of these stories, in the Fae stories too, about like hearing these voices. It's almost like, I don't know, fucking. We're talking about mountains, we're talking about fucking rocks. We've been doing that the whole time, like almost like
Oh, and this is strange.
taken
The
into the
only
mountain,
injuries he
calling
had,
from in the rocks.
rocks. Like if you got okay, they said the only injury his skeleton had was he had some cranial fracturing, but he had no like legs broken, no broken limbs. There's no way if he fell off that mountainside, he would have a fucking broke arm at least. No way he just bumped his head and maybe walked that far with like
Yeah,
if he fell with that kind of force and hit his head would have came out where he'd be, no,
indeed,
something friggin' clubbed his head in. Yeah.
indeed. All right, I
Oh, and
think.
this is a weird thing. I don't know how true this is, but it says also there was somebody that was talking about this case that said when they found his body, it was a skeleton, of course, because this is 8 years later, that he was like laid out in a perfect position, like almost like something had laid him down
Yeah,
and left him, and that was weird.
it's similar to like the clothing in all these accounts. Like everything's placed
Yeah,
intentionally. There's an element
and
of
that was,
intelligence happening.
and he was poking around Native American shit. I mean,
Yeah, don't fuck with those
and
rocks,
rocks.
bro.
I'm sure boulders. I'm sure there
Yeah.
were rocks there. It was a petroglyph. Yeah.
Yep. All right. With that, I believe we are out of content, and since all of my regular co-hosts are fucking busy tonight, I think that's all we got. There is the Big Lenny episode that we did stream on other platforms. Check out my D Live. Check out my Twitch. It's around. Find the links if you know how to. But yeah, that's going to be uploaded soon. Now that I'm out of fucking YouTube jail, I have to edit some shit a little bit. So there is the fucking second episode of the Big Lenny shit coming up. I want to remind everybody to go to yakovalive.com, listen to all the podcasts there, and hit that fucking merch tab. You want to come into the Discord and talk about all this fucking goofy shit with us. Patreon.com/yakovalive. Do you guys got anything you want to shill? Okay.
Oh, come check out my YouTube videos. I'm gonna read books to y'all, and maybe we'll do some more things there. We'll see.
What's the channel called?
Oh, it's just K98. I mean, you can see me comment here in the
I'll
live
drop.
chat. Yeah,
Oh yeah, drop the
come.
fucking link. I'll fucking drop it in the description and all that. Polak, you got
Yeah.
anything you want to say?
Not really. Just that I find the missing 411 stuff fascinating because it's so strange. Like, and then
I,
the
I,
near
I,
misses.
I tell you, I had a near miss myself years
An
ago
almost
walking through
rape.
the park. Well, there was. I put it to you this way: I was walking through a familiar place in this wooded area there, and there was a voice that done called out my name, a familiar voice, sound like somebody I know. But I looked in the woods; there was nobody there, and I was going somewhere, so I
Ooh,
Nope
kept
to the
going.
fuck out of there.
I
Alright.
had
Yeah.
booked it. Yeah.
With that, I will fucking catch you people on the flip side. Definitely more readings coming. I'm going to do some David Paulides audiobooks. That's coming up. Check it out, bro.